direct examination by plaintiff's attorney. And we're starting off with a question by plaintiff's attorney, I said. What is your occupation, Mr. Patterson? I occasionally work as a truck driver, sir. All right. And do you know the defendants in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Knight, seated there at the council table? Yes, I do. And when was the first time you met them? Not knowing the exact date, it was sometime last year, about the latter part of last year. In the fall, sometime last year? Yes. Where do you live, Mr. Patterson? I live in Portland, Oregon. All right, sir. Do you know a Mr. William Winston, also known as Willie? Yes, sir, I do. How long have you known him approximately? About 10 years. All right. And did you have occasion to meet the Knights through Mr. Winston? Yes, I did. I met Mr. Knight through Mr. Winston. All right. Do you recall where this meeting was, where you met Mr. Knight? Yes, I met Mr. Knight in Eugene on the corner of 8th and Fremont in the car. What was the occasion for the meeting? Well, after we went to a beer bar, shortly after we met, we went to a bar. We discussed a little place of business that Mr. Knight owned in Eugene. Had you any conversation with Mr. Winston about this prior to the time you met Mr. Knight? Yes, he told me about this business in Eugene, and he wanted me to meet Mr. Knight. All right. What was the discussion you had then in this beer bar? This was in regards to a dress shop on the State Highway in Eugene, which he had wanted destroyed. And this conversation was with Mr. Knight? Yes, sir. Was anybody else present? Willie was also there at the time. All right. About how long did you talk to Mr. Knight on this date? We perhaps spent approximately a half hour together. All right. What, if any, arrangements did you make about this place of business on the State Highway in Eugene? We discussed the money that was to be given to me. All right. And can you relate what that discussion was, please? Well, he said that he was going to pay $10,000 and that the money would sort of be left in escrow with Willie to be paid after the job was completed. All right. Were there any definite arrangements made about when the job was to be done? Well, yes. I went to Eugene once to look at the place after a week after that. And the place had to go before the 31st, something to that effect. 31st of what? 31st of what month? I mean, well, the month of the explosion. Was that the 31st of December? I don't know what month it was. What were you talking about? He said it had to be destroyed completely before the 31st of December. Yes, because of some insurance reason. It lapsed or expired or something to that effect. Well, now, was it in December that you went to Eugene, or do you recall? I think it was in December that I went down there. All right. You stated that you went down there twice, is that right? Yes, sir. And do you remember when you stayed there, when you were down there? When I was down there the first time, I stayed at the Hyatt House in Eugene. All right, Your Honor, I have what appears to be a registration card from the Hyatt House in the name of Mr. Earl McNabb. I would like this marked as Peoples Next in order for identification. It will be marked Peoples 3 for identification. May I see that again, please? Now, Mr. Patterson, I will show you Peoples number 3 for identification and ask you if you can recognize that document. Yes, I do. How do you recognize it? That is my signature. All right. And the name on that is Earl McNabb. Is that correct? Earl McNabb, yes. That is my mother's maiden name. My mother's name is Deanna McNabb, and my mother's brother's name is Earl. Mr. Patterson, again, looking at the document, the date, I believe, appears to be November the 13th. Now, is that the correct date that you were there? November the 13th? Yes, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Could you relate to the jury, please, what you did when you were in Eugene on that particular day? Oh, this particular day? Yes, when you were there at the Hyatt House. Well, I went there to Eugene, and I checked in at the Hyatt House, and from there, I went directly to a cocktail lounge and waited around until it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay. 164 voice, 5 minutes. 164 voice for 5 minutes. We are in cross-examination by defense attorney. Okay? Ready? Now, this was when the two individuals were in the store. This is how you previously testified. You said that Mr. Kimball was there with another man at the liquor department and then at the meat department. Yes, sir. That's right, isn't it? Yes, sir. Now at this time, were there any other patrons in the store? Yes, there was. And did any of them hinder your view in any way, shape, or form? No, sir. I'm looking at People's Number 1, which is the map that you drew. Yes, sir. And it looks more complicated than my computer. Could be. So where is it on the map where you are initially standing at the time that you make first visual contact with Mr. Kimball? I am standing right in front. Feel free to step down. I was standing out in the front of the store reading a magazine right about here. About any particular reason you were at that particular location? I was up there reading a magazine, watching who was coming in and out of the store, and watching the front of the store. Now, did you see Mr. Kimball? Did you initially observe him when he first entered the store? Yes. And did you continue to watch him? I only watched him as they were going across the front here, and then I walked this way to put my magazine away at the check stand. The witness stated that he only observed Mr. Kimball when Mr. Kimball turns right and walks past aisle number 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Is that correct, sir? Yes, sir. That is when you observed him. Is that correct, sir? Yes, sir. When did you pick up Mr. Kimball again in your sight? When he entered the liquor department. Is there any particular reason that you happened to notice Mr. Kimball again at this time? The reason I noticed him was when he picked up the bottles of liquor over here, and I was standing here in front of aisle 9, I see, and I saw him. In other words, you leave the magazine rack that is in front of aisle number 2 and wander towards aisle number 9. Yes, the magazines are over here by the check stand, right in here. Yes, sir. Indicating 5 and 6, Your Honor. Yes. Yes, I left it at one of the check stands here, walking still. So you continued walking towards aisles 9 and 10? Yes. You were following the same path that Mr. Kimball had taken? Yes. But up to this point, although you are following the same path, he has done nothing to raise your suspicions. Is that correct? No, sir. Has he? No, sir. Now, do you recall where you were headed at this time? I was going towards the break room, which is on the inside of the market there between the liquor and the dairy box. To the break room? Yes, sir. Would you draw a... Is there a big square door there? No, just an area, sir. Just a small area for relaxing? Yes, sir. Is that an off-limits area for employees only? Yes, sir. For employees? Yes. So you were headed, as I am facing the map, to my right, which would be east on the map, and it so happened that Mr. Kimball was basically in your path, so to speak. Yes. This way? Yes, sir. And you were both there at the same time? Yes, sir. And whereupon you noticed as he took bottles of liquor off of the stand and put them in the cart. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Up to this time, feel free to take a seat. Okay. Look, if you want to identify your conduct on the map, just feel free to step down here. Yes, sir. Thank you. Up until this time, Mr. Kimball has done nothing to raise your suspicions whatsoever, right? Is that no? No, sir. And it just happens that you are going to the employees' lounge, and in your vision of sight is Mr. Kimball taking liquor and placing it in the shopping cart, right? Yes, sir. You see that yourself? Yes, sir. That is not suspicious conduct at that time, right? No, sir. Putting liquor into a shopping cart is done all the time, right? Yes, sir. Now, you keep walking towards the East Lounge, don't you? I stopped for that 1 second to see him remove the bottles, and I stopped again right in front of the dairy box and the defendant, and the other individual were coming up from behind me then. Let's see. 150, four-voice test for 5 minutes. Okay? We're in cross-examination by defense attorney. You have gone to aisle number 2, to the magazine rack, to about aisle 4 or so, and now you're turning north on the map, if north is the highest point there. If you will allow me, I will put north to the top there. Yes, of course, I will put in for north on the top, and E conveniently locates where the employees' lounge is, and W will be where west. I would object to that, Your Honor. Would you please have the witness verify that that is north of the store, Mr. Shoemake? Of course, the store faces west. I thought that it would be simpler to draw the map this way. I think it would be appropriate to have the accurate headings on the map, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. It may be confusing the other way, Mr. Shoemake. Oh, sure, Your Honor, fine. Sir, please step down and put on the accurate headings. Yes, sure. Right about in here? That's fine. Okay, thank you. Now, east is the employees' lounge, and due north for the record is at the first aisle. E is at the meat department, and south is at, west is the parking lot area, sir. Sorry. Further, you have gone down aisle 2 to the magazine rack and headed south, and then you have gone past aisle 9, and then you turned east, and you're, please step down and point where you are at the dairy box when you next see Mr. Kimball with his friend. Right there. Right in here, about in here, more in here. About. Yes, sir. So you are 1/4 of the way, or let's say that it is 20% of the way, into the dairy box area. In front of it, I would say I'm 1/3 up the aisle. You are about 1/3 up the aisle. Yes, sir. You're past the employees' lounge. No, sir. You aren't? No, sir. I'm not past it yet. You're not past that particular area yet? No, sir. Like so, about. Where is the employees' lounge exactly? At the end of the dairy box here. I see. Where the letter S is written right about there? Yes, sir. So in other words, as of this time, you are headed for the employees' lounge? Yes, sir. Fine. Now at the time that you saw Mr. Kimball and another individual together, where were, could you repeat that part, please? I can't hear you. I'll speak up. At this time, you're about 1/3 of the way up the dairy box area, and now you see Mr. Kimball with another man standing there. They are just leaving. They are just leaving. They're leaving the liquor department and coming up this way here. All right. Right about in here. So they're behind you now? Yes, sir. So you cannot see their conduct at this time. I'm looking out of the corner of my eye as they are coming up. And if they are behind you, you are walking facing the dairy, right? I was removing an item from the dairy box itself. You were removing an item from it? Yes. What item was it? Do you recall? I was removing a milk from it. Do you recall why you were removing it? Why was I? Yes. We were getting ready to go off, and I was getting it for myself. So, it was happenstance that you were reaching for the milk, and at the same time, you could see Mr. Kimball and the other man to your right, which is behind you? Yes, sir. Thank you. At this time, the two gentlemen have done nothing wrong? No, sir. Do you recall how Mr. Kimball was dressed? The only thing I can recall was that he had a jacket on. Was he wearing slacks or jeans? I can't recall. Was there anything about the manner of his attire that attracted your attention to him? No, sir. So in other words, as far as you were concerned, these two gentlemen were both average boys shoppers, so to speak? Yes, sir. Now, while you were standing at the dairy department, Do you keep walking or do they pass you? They pass me. And are they now headed east on that red line with the arrows and you're now behind them? Yes, sir. This way? Yes, sir. Do they keep moving or do they stop? Pardon? Do they keep moving or do they stop? They stop at the dairy box and remove an orange juice. Where did they put that? Where did they put that? Yes, the orange juice on the top section of the cart. Anything suspicious as of yet? No, sir. This is a 140 four-voice test for 5 minutes. We are in cross by defense attorney. Cross by defense attorney. Okay, ready? But you previously testified whether it was on your right-hand side or left-hand side, you can't remember. At this time today, right now, are you absolutely positive that it was Mr. Kimball that placed these items in his coat pocket? Yes, sir. You are absolutely positive? Yes. The only reason I state that is that you did not testify who was on your left side or your right side, which individual? Yeah, that's right. Why are you positive of that then, sir? Why? How can you be sure it was Mr. Kimball? How can you be sure, Mr. Bank? I can't say which one was on which side, but I know it was him that removed the items. But you really don't know where he was, do you? No, but it was him. All right. Did you see an individual place these items underneath of the jacket? And I saw, all right, go ahead. Sorry, it's okay. I was going to say that I don't really know what you mean. You demonstrated that you saw an individual move his right hand towards the cart and then to his stomach area, and then that individual turned so that you basically now have a right side profile of him. Yes, right. And also coming into your view is a shopping basket that has no liquor in it. Yes, sir. Would that be an accurate description, yes, of your demonstration of the jury? I wouldn't say. I can't recall if they were on the right or the left, but when the two individuals turned and faced me, then I noticed that the liquor was missing. I could not remember if they were on the left or the right side. But you do recall that there was no liquor in the basket? Yes, sir. If you had seen liquor in the basket, would there have been anything suspicious about their conduct? Just the moving of their hands in this way and their heads. The movement of the heads and the hands? Yes, sir. All right. That I saw for sure. All right. Now, the two individuals were together. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Are you sure about that? Yes. Now, you testified that the two individuals are together basically from the time they enter the store and take a cart and follow the route as you previously testified. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Now, remember about that police report that I asked you about, and you said that you recited it to Mr. Wheeler. Remember that? Yes, sir. Now, in that report, did you clearly indicate that the two individuals were together all during this time? Yes, sir. Do you have a copy of that? No. My partner has it. Jerry is outside. May I approach the witness, Your Honor, please? Yes. Now read that for yourself and tell me if you recognize that from this portion. Yes. Now, does it or does it not clearly say that the two individuals are together during this time? No, it does not. It does not. No, sir, it does not. But now your testimony is that the two individuals are together all during this course of time, right? Yes, sir. That is what you are testifying to, right, Mr. Bank? Yes, sir. So apparently he wrote down what you told him wrong or recited it incorrectly at the time. Yes. Is that right? Yes. I believe that he wrote it down wrong. Yes. You believe that he wrote it down wrong? Yes, sir. Is there a discrepancy here? Yes, sir. Thank you. Now, you are saying that the two individuals remained together all the way through? Yes, sir. Now, you signed this report, didn't you? Yes, sir, I did. And your signature is at the bottom? Yes. Do you see your signature at the bottom? Yes, sir, I see it. Did you read the report before you signed it, sir? I read over it, yes, I did. But you didn't notice the discrepancy at that time, did you? No, sir. Because odds are you would catch a discrepancy the minute after the incident rather than months after, right? There is no indication that the report is inconsistent with the testimony, Your Honor. Objection overruled. Ready? Mr. Speaker, new presidents are entitled to select their cabinet members, and they should be given a wide latitude in the choice of men and women to assist them. Unlike appointees to the judicial branch, who enjoy a life tenure and are constitutionally independent from the executive branch, the cabinet members serve the president during his term of office. Cabinet members should have policies and goals that are similar to that of the president. I will vote to confirm the nomination of David Paul Crenshaw as Secretary of the Treasury. Mr. Crenshaw has been involved in finance in both public and private endeavors. He was a prominent figure in Michigan for many years, working as corporate controller for General Motors and most recently as Director of Finance for the state of Michigan. Mr. Crenshaw has served on the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan, and he also worked closely as a consultant for 10 years to the Committee on New Project Appropriations for the state of Michigan. Mr. Crenshaw is a man of competence, integrity, and dedication. Mr. Crenshaw's record supports my opinion. In response to a number of questions which I and my colleagues put to Mr. Crenshaw at the hearing on his nomination, he did decline to give specific views on certain areas relative to the Federal Reserve and also to the questions regarding allocations of funds to special interest groups in the state of Michigan. Mr. Crenshaw has declined to give details in these areas. The Committee on Cabinet Appointees was concerned about these questions and hopes Mr. Crenshaw will clear up these areas of ambiguity. Despite my reservation, I again affirm Mr. Crenshaw's nomination and look forward to working with him in the future. Mr. Speaker, new presidents are entitled to select their cabinet members, and should be given a wide latitude in the choice of men and women to assist them. Unlike appointees to the judicial branch who enjoy a life tenure and are constitutionally independent from the executive branch, the cabinet members serve the president during his term of office. Cabinet members should have policies and goals that are similar to that of the president. I will vote to confirm the nomination of David Paul Crenshaw as Secretary of the Treasury. Mr. Crenshaw has been involved in finance in both public and private endeavors. He was a prominent figure in Michigan for many years, working as corporate controller for General Motors and most recently as Director of Finance for the state of Michigan. Mr. Crenshaw has served on the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan, and he also worked closely as a consultant for 10 years to the Committee on New Project Appropriation for the state of Michigan. Mr. Crenshaw is a man of competence, integrity, and dedication. Mr. Crenshaw's record supports my opinion. In response to a number of questions which I and my colleagues put to Mr. Crenshaw at the hearing on his nomination, he did decline to give specific views on certain areas relative to the Federal Reserve and also to the questions regarding allocations of funds to special interest groups in the state of Michigan. Mr. Crenshaw declined to give details in these areas. The Committee on Cabinet Appointees was concerned about these questions and hopes Mr. Crenshaw will clear up these areas of ambiguity. Despite my reservation, I again affirm Mr. Crenshaw's nomination and look forward to working with him in the future. Mr. Speaker, new presidents are entitled to select their cabinet members, and they should be given a wide latitude in the choice of men and women to assist them. Unlike appointees to the judicial branch who enjoy a life tenure and are constitutionally independent from the executive branch, the cabinet members serve the president during his term of office. Cabinet members should have policies and goals that are similar to that of the president. I will vote to confirm the nomination of David Paul Crenshaw as Secretary of the Treasury. Mr. Crenshaw has been involved in finance in both public and private endeavors. He was a prominent figure in Michigan for many years, working as corporate controller for General Motors and most recently as Director of Finance for